Hi there, Ariel Overstreet Atkins, attorney and owner of Bluebird Law in Billings, Montana. And if you are interested in getting started on your estate planning, but you really don't know where to start, I have a suggestion for you today. So my suggestion would be to start gathering up all the information you can about the assets that you own. So thinking about the assets that you own, sometimes we can forget all the things that we own. So there's a lot of categories that you want to be thinking about. Of course, the big stuff that hopefully your real property, things like that. Any businesses that you own, get some detail about those things. If you have your real property, what county is it in? Whose name is on the title? If you're married, is your spouse on the title? On the deed, is it listed as joint tenants with right of survivorship or tenants in common, that type of thing. Get all the information that you can, maybe get a copy of the deed from the county clerk and recorder, just to have that information. For your businesses, what kind of business is it? Is it an LLC? Is it a corporation? If it's a corporation, is it an S Corp? Is it a C Corp? That type of thing. What is your ownership in that business? If it's an LLC, do you have 100% of the membership interests? Or if it's a corporation, do you have 100% of the shares or some other percentage? Get that down. If you have other co-owners, it'd be nice to know who those people are as well. Bank accounts, where do you bank? You don't necessarily need to get the amounts right, because that can change so frequently, but what banks do you use? What types of accounts do you have there? Who are the owners of the account? Do you have any signers listed? Do you have any pay on death beneficiaries designated on those accounts? Same with investments, those types of things. Who owns it? Any pay on death beneficiaries? Retirement accounts. Presumably you own your retirement account. And then do you have beneficiaries designated? So think about all these other weird assets that we might have, or not weird necessarily, but cryptocurrency. Do you have cryptocurrency? That's been a big thing these past few years. Do you have a like a 529 type account for any kids or grandkids? Do you have vehicles? Anything titled? Again, who's on the title? If you're married, is it you and your spouse together? Is it just one of you? What's the approximate value of that vehicle? That sort of thing. Your personal property. Do you have anything particularly notable in your personal property, like jewelry, artwork, coin collections, etc.? Stuff like that. Guns, of course, here in Montana are a big thing that we see folks with that have sizable collections of guns and artwork and all of that. So just think about all the things that you own. The reason that this is such an important part of your estate plan is because if, God forbid, something happened to you today and you don't have that all written down, and somebody else doesn't know exactly what you have and where it is and how it's titled and who else is involved, whoever is in charge of your estate is going to have to play detective. And it can be quite a task to play detective. Either we're waiting for the mail to come in with statements. We might be trying to get onto your email if everything you receive is in an e-statement, that type of thing. Just remembered a really important asset class that I didn't mention: life insurance. Do you have life insurance? And who's the beneficiary of that? Do you even know who your carrier is? You might have to scour through your bank records to remember who you're paying your premiums to. But try to find all that out, because if something happens to you and we have that list of assets, even if it's not totally up to date, it's just a snapshot in time, that's going to help people save a lot of time. On the estate planning front, having that list of documents is going to be really helpful, especially when you meet with us. That one of the first things that we want to do is we want to go through those assets and tell you exactly what would happen to each asset and where it would go if, God forbid, you died today. So we want to talk about what's the status quo, whether you have an existing plan or you have no plan. I want to be able to go through the assets and tell you which assets are going to have to go through the probate process if you have a will or have no will. What assets are going to pass by beneficiary designation or just as a matter of law if you co-own them with your spouse or someone else. And then what things are going to pass outside of that probate process with the beneficiary designation. So your retirement accounts, your life insurance policies, those types of things, maybe a bank account, maybe an investment account. So I want to walk you through that so you know exactly if something bad happened today, what would the process look like? And that way we can talk about all the things that we may or may not want to change. And one of the things too that we want to talk about with the assets is if we talk about a revocable living trust, then we need to know what assets actually need to get funded into the trust. And so these are all things that we'll talk about when we meet. But just having that asset list put together is going to be a huge big deal for your estate planning process. And then if something happens and you don't make it in to meet with us, or whatever happens, then that list exists to help your family out, so they're not just totally scrambling. So if there was one place for you to start on your estate planning process, that's what I would recommend. Start with those assets, and then give us a call to get on our calendar.